Hi seconds, this is for Christmas Dreidel. This piece is kind of confusing because of the counting. So if you look at the beginning, you have an eighth note rest, right, before measure 1. That's your pickup. And that pickup is really for the cellos and basses because that's where they enter, right? Then you have one full measure to count in measure 1. And then you come in on the and of beat 2 in measure 2. So if I were to count that completely from the beginning, I have my empty measure I'd give you, 1, 2, 1, and 1, 2, 1, 2. So we'll go over the counting together in class, and in orchestra I'll also bring you in, so I'll gesture to you. So when it's your turn, you'll get 1, 2. And then I'll cue you in, okay? So that way you know to come in. But that eighth note, A, on the G string can't take you by surprise. You have to come right in on the and of 2. Right, so maybe at home practice saying 1, 2, and 1, 2, and then playing that 1, 2, and 1, and 2, and. So that way you're never afraid of that A. In case you don't know where that note is, that is 1 on the G string. Again, this is in measure 2, that's 1 on the G string, so you have 1 there. And then open D, first finger E, and then open A. Okay, that should be pretty easy. But then you go to the E string, and you have your note F sharp, which is 1 finger, going to 3 fingers on A. Don't pick your fingers up as you go to these notes. Keep them down because you can play 1 on E and 3 on A at the same time. So you can play across strings. Okay, so make sure you're not lifting your fingers up. Again, I don't want to see this. Because you hear that doesn't sound good. So keep your fingers down. When you get to measure 8, you then go to a low 1, F natural. So you're going from regular 1 to low 1, behind the tape if you have tape, right? So at measure 8, you have low 1, and that same 3 on the A. Again, keep your fingers down. So you should be able to practice changing between F sharp and D to F natural and D. Okay? If you look at measure 10, you then go to C natural on the A string, low 2 to open A. Pretty easy. And then G, E on the D string. So if I were you, I would maybe practice playing each one of these finger combinations once. So I would play F, D, then F natural, D, then C, A, and then G, E. So that I really know that I can get from finger pattern to finger pattern. So again, I'd play it like this. That way I know I can do it multiple times from measure 6. Okay, so definitely practice that slowly so you understand where your fingers have to go. At measure 4, you're back on the G string, 1 finger to a high 2 in a down bow. So if you can, play both of these notes in one bow. So you have 1, 2, 1, 2, then another A, and then you pizzicato the note E on the D string. So again, from 14, that's A, B, A, pits. Okay, hopefully you can get to the pits on time because it's on beat 2. So you have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, pits. And then you go back again to the G string. This is measure 18. You have B, G, A, pits. Sorry, I messed that up a little bit. But again, B, G, A, and then pits. Okay? So why don't you try to play with me from 14, and if you can't get the pizzicato, that's okay, but try your hardest, okay? 14, 1, 2, ready, and. Pits. a reason why those notes are on an up bow, so that way your finger is ready to get to the pizzicato. But right after you pizzicato, you have to put the bow back on the string to play arco, okay? So you might want to practice that. Going on to measure 22, we started to speak in class the words dreidel, 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 right? And I asked you to put that accent on dull so that you actually get that syncopation. Because when you play at 22, you're pizzicato still, so I would tuck your bow into your hand and get ready to pizz. But you have dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made it out of clay, right? You don't necessarily have the melody, but you have the rhythm of the melody. So if you can think dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay, then you already have the proper rhythm to pluck, okay? The rest is figuring out the notes, which should be pretty easy because you have E, D, E, D, E, D, D, F sharp, E, D, D. Again, D, E, D, E, D, E, E, F, E, D, and here you have a C sharp, D, okay? And that C sharp is in measure 28. So C sharp again on the G string is high 3, and then open D. So see if you can try your best to play with me from 22. Just be careful, at 22 you start on E, D, E, D, E, D, but then at 26 you have D, E, D, E, D, E, so it's the opposite, okay? Do the best you can at 22. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2. E, D, E, D, E, D, D, F, E, D, 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 F, E, D, C sharp, D, and stop. So you may want to practice that. Maybe you want to practice it with the bow. Maybe you want to practice each note multiple times. Right? Or just practice making sure that you can pluck that fast, okay? But however you need to practice it, definitely focus on those sections, and we'll pick up where we just left off in video 2. All right? Happy practicing.